It's me, Jessica Bieber, and I actually haven't made Momoland content in a while, so I wanted to make this because I actually saw Minemi's video, which was on the Vocaloid iceberg, and I kind of got inspired. So if you guys are into Vocaloid, you should definitely check out her video on that as well. So the first thing I wanted to do was just define what this iceberg actually meant. And so basically the idea of the iceberg is that the part of the iceberg above the water, or the tip, consists of things that most people would know about Momoland. And the further you go down, each tier is full of things that only maybe older fans would recognize, or people who are deeper into the fandom. I thought this would be a fun video to make because, as you guys know, I am a Momoland fan. I haven't made Momoland content in a long time. And even if you aren't really that big of a fan on Momoland, I also just think it's interesting to find out this stuff that is like, what? Like, I had no idea this happened and this is so crazy. So I thought it would be fun to share all of the information I gathered with you guys, and I got a lot of help from a lot of merries, so I will put their Twitters in the description below for all the people who helped me with this. I got a lot to cover, so let's just get into it and start with tier 1. So in tier 1, it's basically information that most people would know about Momoland regardless of whether they are fans or not. One of the first things I thought of was Yeonwoo and Taeha's departure, since it seemed like pretty big news at the time. Yeonwoo was staying under MLD Entertainment, but she was continuing on her career as an actress rather than an idol. And Taeha left the company altogether and said that it was because she wanted to express her own voice and, you know, do her own thing, so she left the company altogether. Next in tier 1 is the Momoland members blowing up on IG, more specifically Ahin and Jui the most. They really blew up on Twitter and Instagram because of like their baddie kind of model, IG model looks, and they looked really, really stunning in all their pictures, so they were blowing up all over the place because of their gorgeous Instagram photos. A lot of people who didn't even stan Momoland were using Momoland as their profile pictures just because of like how aesthetically pleasing all their IG photos look. And you know, they look great. Just great, you know. I think the biggest thing that people know about Momoland is the dance crazes that they created with Boom Boom and also Bam, but mainly Boom Boom being the bigger one. Nearly everyone was dancing to Boom Boom. The dance blew up. There were so many idols dancing to it. Everyone in public was dancing to it. It blew the hell up, and everyone was dancing to Boom Boom at one certain point. And I feel like that is definitely, you know, one of the things that people know the most about Momoland. One of the other things on tier 1 is also, you know, Momoland kind of blowing up for plagiarism, which sucks, but you know, this video blew up the most, and it was called Everything Momoland Has Copied. And obviously, I know the person who made this doesn't have bad intentions towards Momoland, as he put that in the disclaimer at the start. But they basically just showed off all of this, like, evidence, I guess, that Momoland had plagiarized these songs. But you got to remember that Momoland aren't responsible for the music they make, and they don't produce any of their own music. So you can't really blame them for that. But unfortunately, they got a lot of hate for plagiarism, even though they didn't even work on any of the songs themselves. They get given the song and they're just told to do it. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But that is probably one of the most known things about Momoland is plagiarism. Next, we are going to move on to tier 2, still, you know, pretty above the iceberg. So, you know, a lot of people will still know this stuff, but you may have missed it, or you may not have been in K-pop at the time, or it just flew past your head and you didn't realize. But this is stuff that people, you know, a lot of people will know, but may have missed, or maybe fans know, or casual fans. But either way, it's still at the top, so it's pretty common news. If you ask a Momoland fan who was around since 2018 and you ask them about how 2018 was for Momoland, they would say it was horrific. First of all, there were so many accusations that were proven to be false. I had made so many videos defending Momoland in this time, and there was such a lack of people defending Momoland because it was such a small fandom, regardless of how big their songs blew up. There weren't that many fans. And it really, really sucked because Momoland were getting mass hated on in 2018 for multiple different reasons. First of them being accusations that they hate certain groups like BTS or Blackpink. There were also, you know, news websites and news channels that were spreading lies about Momoland, even going as far as calling Nancy, the mixed race member, a hybrid. And there were also just other YouTube content creators who were adding onto the hate train just because everyone else was hating on them. And it was a really, really dark time for Momoland. And a lot of the times they even had to disable their Instagram comments because they were getting a lot of hate, and yeah, that really sucked. One of the biggest accusations at the time was that Nancy was homophobic because of this video where she said she didn't want to date her co-members, and people literally took that and ran a mile with it, spreading this homophobic thing, and it kind of blew up where everyone was calling Nancy homophobic, even though she literally just said she didn't want to date her friends. Like, hello? I don't want to be dating my friends either. Like, oh my god, it's stupid. So I wasn't actually sure where to put this one because this kind of blew up in Korea more than it did internationally, but I put it in this tier 2 just to be safe. So basically there were a lot of rumors regarding Yeonwoo being bullied in the group, which I just think is kind of ridiculous because you will never know the actual truth, but from what we have saw and from what we can take, she had a good relationship with the girl. This video here is what sparked kind of the debate, or is one of the fuels to the fire, I guess. It shows Yeonwoo kind of standing by herself at a rehearsal, and some of the girls are talking in a group. But I also think it's very interesting that they cropped out another member who was just standing by herself waiting for the music to start, being Ahin. She's completely cropped out of this, even though she was basically doing the same thing as Yeonwoo, which is standing, waiting for the music to start again, while the other members were discussing a choreography. So I just think that's very interesting how they kind of cropped it out to make it look like Yeonwoo was the only one standing by herself in a rehearsal. It's really just not that deep of a video, but people are pushing it in a certain narrative, and it's silly. Next in tier 2 is, the McNair line's friendship with other girl group members. Just in one class alone was Nancy, Jui, Eunchae, Yeonjung, Chu, Kim Lip, and Eunchae. Wait, did I say Eunchae already? Oh my god, I'm so dumb. I actually meant Yeri instead of Eunchae again. But yeah, the main thing that people know about this is that Chu and Jui were like really good friends in high school. They're still good friends, and they have a lot of pre-debut pictures together. So the next on tier 2 is Momoland blowing up in the Philippines. Like, it was crazy. It was around 2018 being the Boom Boom and Bam era, and they just blew up because I do feel like that their songs are kind of like what Filipinos like. Being a Filipino myself, it was very like one of those songs that I just know from hearing it. I'm like, oh, Filipinos would love this. You know what I mean? The other reason they kind of blew up was also because of Nancy. And I hate saying that because it is a group. But for some reason, Nancy just blew up in the Philippines the most because she was kind of like the ideal girlfriend type in the Philippines. She's very like the beauty standard there. And she blew up, and Nancy became like a household name. And it kind of sucks because sometimes the other members wouldn't get as much attention as Nancy when it came to Filipino promotions. The story that I always remember is when I was coming back to the Philippines and I was visiting my family. One of the first things that my 50-year-old auntie who has no idea about K-pop at all said to me was, "Do you know Nancy? Do you know who Nancy is? She's so big here. We really like Nancy." And that was like my 50-year-old auntie who had no idea about K-pop at all. She's like, "You know Nancy, right?" And like everyone was just talking about Nancy at that time, and it was really, really crazy. Nancy really like became like a household name in the Philippines, as well as Momoland, because obviously they know that it was a group singing the songs. But Nancy was really kind of singled out as like the most popular member in the Philippines, and it was kind of crazy. They have like one of the biggest fan bases in Philippines ever. So next we're moving on to tier 3. Now we are finally kind of under the top of the iceberg, and we're kind of into, getting a little bit deeper now. So let's get into it. First on tier 3, we have Finding Momoland, which is the show they were actually made on. Not a lot of people may know that they were made on a show. And, there were more than just the original lineup there. There were like, I think, around maybe 12 to 13 girls, and they all competed to be in Momoland, and there were quite a few famous guest judges like Jessie and people like that. Next was the scandal between Nancy and Changmin, or Q, from The Boys. They were seen hanging out together with, a few other idols, but for some reason Nancy and Q kind of got pushed together in a dating scandal, even though there were other people there just hanging out. And it kind of blew up, but kind of didn't, so I'd put this in tier 3 because it feels like some people know about it and some people don't, and my bird is interrupting me. It kind of made both sides get a little bit of hate from each fandom, but in the end, I think Chanmin ended up apologizing, which was kind of dumb because he was just hanging out with friends. Next on tier 3 is Daisy's mum's Instagram. Before we kind of knew what was going on with Daisy, before she kind of came out with her side of the story, the only thing we saw was Daisy's mum posting on Instagram, and she was talking a lot of smack about Momoland and MLD. And, it was kind of a big deal for merries, and I'm not really sure if people really know about it now, so that's why I put it in tier 3. I have a video on it if you want to, learn more about it, so I will leave the video for that in the description. Next is Nancy actually being a child star. She made loads of appearances on Korean TV before she even debuted and was even under MLD Entertainment. And she was also in a photo shoot with Vernon from 17 when she was younger. So small world. The next thing on tier 3 is the Pristin, Kyla and Nancy quote unquote expose. These random girls on Stan Twitter claimed that they knew Kyla from Discord and that Kyla said Nancy was a bully. Again, this was just kind of weird because everyone believed it, even though these girls literally just had no proof at all. And they were like, well, you just have to believe us because we were there on the Discord. And it was just kind of this weird claim, and it was very cloud chasery, and it's just probably not true. They had no proof that there was Kyla at all, no Discord tags, no screenshots or anything. They were just like, oh yeah, this happened, and they called Nancy a bully. That was literally it. It was very dumb. Next up, we have the fact that people were accusing Nancy's dad of being a Trump supporter. This was around the same Momoland hate train, and I think people found out Nancy's dad was white, saw pictures of him, saw white man and said Trump supporter. There is absolutely zero evidence to support this at all, and people use it to hate on Nancy. Even if it was true, you can't really blame someone's parents' political views on, their child unless they have the same political views, which Nancy definitely doesn't. She's been very accepting of, all races, LGBT and trans people. So I think it's fair to say that she's probably not a Trump supporter if she's accepting of all of these people. So next up is during the Momoland I'm So Hot promotions. A lot of the promotional material has this kettle, and it was very revolved around tea. So this made a lot of merries think that there was like a tea-themed comeback, and we were all really confused. And that's when some people found this account that MLD followed, and the tea in the profile picture here, the logo for this tea company, Gova Sun, it's the exact same as the logo that was being used for I'm So Hot. And also, before the title track's name was even announced, they posted this photo and even hashtagged it with hashtag Momoland. The weird thing about this is that Momoland never even kind of promoted this tea company. And they would even post like a bunch of stuff on their Instagram with like this stage that we never saw and like all of this stuff. And we were all really confused because MLD themselves never said anything, neither did Momoland, but there was so much promotional material that was posted on the Gova and Sons, Instagram. But this account barely reached anyone. It only had 500, 400 followers at the time. So we were just like, what? Like, is Momoland not going to promote this at all? Is MLD not going to... They didn't post anything about it. All we saw was something from this account with 400 followers, and that was it. And the reason why I think this never went through is because of the advertising laws on TV in Korea. If you guys didn't know, you aren't allowed to say, like, brand names or even advertise anything on TV there. You have to, like, cover up words on your hoodies and stuff like that. So when people go in interviews, they say, oh, well, the S brand. It's, like, law in Korea that you just can't advertise. It's pretty weird, but I think that might be the reason why it got dropped, because they wanted to keep their TV appearances. Kind of sucks for the company though, seeing as how they put all of this time and money into Momoland and they didn't even get the sponsorship, Sucks. So next we're on tier 4. We are in the deeper end now, and this is kind of stuff that more devoted or older fans will know about Momoland, so let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Taeha's mum's Instagram. Not many people know about this because Daisy's mum kind of like outshadowed her, because Daisy's mum was like saying all this stuff online, but Taeha's mum had an Instagram too, and she would post lots of cute pictures of updates of Taeha. Not really anything about Momoland, she was just updating fans on Taeha. It was a private account, so I'm not gonna, give away the @ because I think it's private now, and Taeha has her own Instagram, but she was really, really cool, and she was just posting pictures of Taeha and stuff like that, and she was just really proud of her daughter. The next thing I'd like to talk about is that Momoland are actually very selfless without many people knowing about it apart from their fans. While Momoland have done public charity campaigns, I'm going to talk about the ones that people don't know about, but they have also done a few public charity campaigns which are just as valid. When they were promoting in Philippines, they found out that there was a child in hospital with special needs that was a really big fan, so they came to visit them. They intended to not make anything about this public at all, but since Momoland were blowing up in the Philippines, it ended up getting found out. The statement from the hospital themselves said here that they were trying to keep it low-key and they didn't want to announce that they were doing charity work. They also just randomly came onto the streets of the Philippines and just did like a free mini concert, and they just encouraged everyone to come. The safety concerns scare me, but the fact that they did that is really sweet. There was also a time when Nancy just went around Manila Bay to clean up garbage and waste near the riverside. And they also went to perform at a children's hospital in Korea just to kind of lift some spirits and stuff like that. And bearing in mind, this is all before they were getting paid and the company was going bankrupt. They were just doing this. So it was pretty cool of them. The next thing I'm going to talk about is that not a lot of people know that Ah-in is actually fluent in Chinese and she lived there for 11 years. So she's pretty good at the language. And yeah, multilingual queen. And speaking of Ah-in, when you go on Momoland's Spotify page, it looks like this. But if you scroll down, you go on the appears on, and there's just this song called Ah-in, and it's like, what? What is this? You click on the song, and it's literally just Ah-in, a selfie of Ah-in, and it's a song dedicated to Ah-in, calling her so pretty and all of that. And this person also made a song called Jenny Kim, I Love You. I'm sorry, but the songs are just not good at all, and it just seems like this person's trying to use their names for clout, but it's weird. And the weird thing about Ah-in is that it actually shows up on the Momoland page because he tagged Momoland as a featured artist, even though they're not even on the track at all, apart from Ah-in's picture being used without her consent, but whatever. Next up is Nancy and Zeus Collins. For those who don't know, Zeus is like an entertainer and like influencer and celebrity in the Philippines, and he kind of like has this like huge obsession with Nancy. He's like a really big fan. He even like went to one of Nancy's promotions in the Philippines as a fan and just took this video of her, and when she saw him she was like, oh, it's you. Prior to this, he was on a show with her and he took this video where he just did this, and Jane's reaction always sends because she's like, what are you doing? And Nancy's just like, oh, hi. And Jane is just standing there like, the fuck. And speaking of Nancy's promotions in the Philippines, the next thing I want to talk about is James Reid and Nancy. So basically, Nancy and James Reid were going to be in a drama together. And just kind of prior to this, or during this kind of whole thing being announced, James Reid broke up with his girlfriend, Nadine. And this caused a lot of hate on Nancy. Nancy kind of got the blame. And it kind of sucked because Nancy was just there to film her drama and go. Next is Momoland's female bodyguard. A lot of older fans really love this female bodyguard because she seemed like a really sweet person, and it was really nice to just see another woman taking care of the girls because you don't see it that often when it comes to this. So it was really nice seeing how much she cared for the girls and looked after them and also protected them because that was her job. She seemed to really like them and enjoy what she do, but she just kind of disappeared, and merries don't really know what happened to her, and a lot of new merries don't know about her at all because it was kind of more of a thing in 2008 to watch for her. Okay, so now we're at the second last tier, and this is something that like really hardcore merries will know, and I don't think like people who aren't fans of Momoland would know this stuff. So the first thing is that Daisy is actually still under MLD despite being booted out of the group, and she is kind of stuck there in a weird legal situation where she isn't even doing any promotions or preparing anything. She is just stuck under MLD because of how her mum behaved online. And they tried to go on a TV show to expose MLD, but it kind of backfired because MLD kind of was like, no, this is all slander and we're going to take you to court, and they ended up getting sued. So yeah, this is one of those things that I wasn't sure whether to put on a higher or a lower tier because it's one of those things that people know about but also don't know about. But this girl went on TikTok trying to publicly slander them, imply that they're rude with absolutely zero proof at all. When merries called her out for it, she started acting like a victim and started saying all this stuff about Momoland and encouraged hate comments by even liking nasty comments. It's just kind of dumb because there's just no way that a Momoland member would slip up, even if they saw a fan and they were like, oh god, I don't want to deal with this. They wouldn't slip up because they have been media trained and told how to behave around fans. So there's absolutely no way that she would just do this in public, in front of people, and, you know, just let people see her do that because she would get in trouble for it. So it's just very stupid. It just clearly didn't happen, and this person is just taking one little interaction, if it even happened, and running a mile with it. If the interaction did happen, I can just assure you that one of the members probably just didn't say hi or something, which they're not even entitled to do. And it's actually very common practice for like idols to just not greet people while they're just walking by. I've seen this happen at airports all the time. So everything about this video is completely stupid, and if you buy into it, you're just as stupid. Next, we're going to talk about the survival show Finding Momoland and it being possibly rigged and the price for members to debut from this. The following statements I'm going to show you guys are from Daisy's account, but it's kind of weird because MLD kind of confirmed them to be true, but we aren't really sure. So I'm just going to say this is alleged for now, but as more info passes on, we'll see what happens. After Daisy's elimination, apparently the company told her that they wanted to have a meeting with her the next day, and that they had already planned to include her in Momoland regardless of the elimination, and that she would be in the next album once the promotions for the first album were over, which, you know, did happen. And when she entered the waiting room after her elimination, someone with the company told her not to worry because they had plans with her. She then revealed that each member had to pay 70 million won, which is approximately $60,000 to debut. And I'm pretty sure MLD said that this is correct, but it's common practice, but I don't think it is. Next up is Momoland's really low-key sponsorship with Samsung. Basically, they get sponsored to use Samsung phones in public, but they've been caught slipping up a few times. There's one clip when Nancy realized she had her iPhone 11 out and then quickly hid it. And there's also been times when Nancy was seen on the same day with a Samsung in front of everyone, and then on the plane she was taking photos with her iPhone. So it's pretty funny. Last on the tier list is actually Ahin and Leah being really close best friends that went to school together. For some reason, not many people know about this, even though I think it would be, you know, bigger news. But yeah, not many people know about this.
You and Leah are friends? Yes, we're friends. We have been friends since high school. We went to the same high school. We went to the school together. And the first person I saw in the school was her. And the first person she saw in the school was probably me. I don't know.
So we are finally on to the last tier, which is some stuff that I don't even think some merries would know about, and maybe only OG merries would know from like the older fandom days. So let's get into it. So this is kind of piggybacking off of my last point, but in Finding Momoland, you can see pre-debut Leah in the background supporting Ahin, and she's actually behind some of Ahin's fangirls, which is kind of funny because it's like Ahin's best friend behind a bunch of Ahin fans, and she's just like, oh my god, they're all there for my friend. But yeah, not many people know that Leah was actually there for one of Finding Momoland's clips. So Daisy actually had a stan Twitter account back in the day, but no one knew what her account was. And this is just to kind of piggyback from this. She actually joined a Discord server with a bunch of merries in, and I was in this Discord server. I'm not in it anymore because it kind of got shut down. But I remember she like joined it to play some mobile games with some merries on a VC, and they all have videos of Daisy speaking, being like, it's Daisy, and like they were saying, oh my god, Daisy, we love you, and stuff like that. And Daisy played a few rounds of this game called Starship or something like that, I think. I wasn't there for that, but I've seen the videos, and this is one of those things where it's like, well, I saw it, and you know, I don't have the videos, but I literally saw the videos that these people sent to me, and they were pretty legit. So you guys don't have to believe me, because I know I personally don't have any proof, and I sound like those girls who were accusing Nancy and Kyla of that beef. But I genuinely did see it, and it's crazy because she joined a Discord server and played games and then left. But yeah. Just a quick side note, that Discord server ended up all calling me a snake because I talked shit about someone who said the N-word. So, you know, you want to call me a snake, I'll play the role. The next thing a lot of people don't know is that Ahin comes from like a super, super, super rich family. Her dad is a CEO, and he like owns this energy and chemical company in China. I don't really know that much about it, but I think it's pretty safe to say that, you know, those debut costs weren't that much of an issue for the family. So this is the last thing I'm going to say on tier 6, and I actually just thought of this the other day when I was talking to Johnny about it. But as you guys know, I was on After School Club and I actually met Momoland. And during the waiting time, while I was waiting in the lobby to get my turn to speak to them, MLD actually told me that I wasn't allowed to have any OT9 pictures in the background. So if you guys can see there's like a little calendar in the background and it just has a picture of one member on. That was originally going to be 9 members on, but they told me to change it or I couldn't go on. And that is all. This is the entire tier list if you want to see it. This video took a long time to make, so I would really appreciate some support. If you guys haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. And, you know, tell me if you want to see more videos like this. I wouldn't mind doing research into other groups. I took inspiration from Minemi's video mostly, but I also saw that there were other K-pop iceberg videos. So I think this was really interesting to make, and do bear in mind that I made this with not just merries seeing this in mind, but like people who aren't merries. So if you're kind of like a merry and you're like, well, I know this stuff already, it's like, well, yeah, because you're a merry, okay? So that's all from me. Thank you guys for sticking through this very long video. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.